Hello.
Yes.
Okay. Very good morning, all. On behalf of Chemical Engineering Department, I welcome you all on third day of Atal FDP on Waste Technology. Today, we have renowned speaker with us, Dr. P.N. Parmeshwaran sir. Welcome you, sir. It gives me an immense pleasure to introduce today's speaker. Sir is chemical engineer and completed his MTech and MBA from Cochin University of Science and Technology. Sir is doctorate in environment management. Sir has more than 45 years of professional experience and work with various industries like Hindustan Insecticides, Ghada Chemicals, UPL Limited. Sir is expertise in environment regulations, wastewater treatment and recycle, hazardous waste management, environmental impact assessment, safety, responsible care, environmental management system. Sir is actively involved in setting up and operation of various common environmental facilities, including EIL, ETL, BEIL, NCTL. Sir is director of Kerala Enviro Infrastructure Limited and Shivalik Solid Waste Management Limited. Sir is a trustee of Ankleshwar Rotary Education Society. Sir is NABET approved functional area expert for water pollution monitoring, prevention and control, and solid hazardous waste management for EIA studies. Sir is Sir is auditor of Responsible Care Initiative of Indian Chemical Council, and now Sir is advisor of BIL Group. So I would like to request you, sir, please kindly take the charge of today's session and enlighten us, sir. Please, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Good morning, all the participants. I am very thankful to Government Engineering College, Bharuch, for inviting me for this ADAL FDP on waste technology. I am thankful to the principal and the coordinator, Professor Vagela. So, the topic given is hazardous waste management, rules, implementation, and a case study of Bharuch Enviro Infrastructure Limited. I will give the details. So initial portion is more on the rules, regulations. It can be little boring, but I will try to make it live. I will go to the full slide. So this is already explained my background. I am also a chemical engineer. So very happy to associate with the Indian Institute of Chemical Engineers and this department. So this presentation I have considered introduction on the waste management concept, why this is very important. What are the developments to this Basel Convention? There is an international convention called Basel Convention. Then the hazardous and other waste management and transboundary movement rules. 2016 rule. This is the latest amended rules. Then other guidelines, standards, segregation, storage, transportation, treatment and disposal. That is one of the important, because you are talking about the technology, waste technology. So ultimately, the waste, say co-processing is something utilization, incineration is destruction, thermal destruction, and secured landfilling is the final disposal. And of course, last is a case study. Most of the portion I will in detail the case study. So if you see, European Union have come up with the stringent norms for hazardous waste management. The rules are very strict and norms are very difficult to comply, because that is why the focus is shifted to preventing waste generation, utilization. So disposal and the norms standards are very, very strict. So focus is shifted to developing waste management technologies that actually recover and conserve natural resources. So I hope in the 5-day program on waste technology, there will be a lot of focus on recovering and utilizing, how you can conserve the natural resources. That is the more focus today required, rather than uh, okay, how you will treat the waste once it is generated. Without proper destruction or disposal, hazardous waste could be a major source of toxic pollution and threat to our lives and the natural environment. This is the one of the important aspect everyone has to uh, realize. Many a times there were objections raised by many people against treatment like incineration. But if you don't incinerate and treat the waste, it will give more problem. Any treatment process can have its own side effects or problems, but without the treatment and disposal, there will be problem. Hazardous waste presents immediate or long time risk, both short time and long time risk to human, animals, plants, or the environment. By setting up and operation of common hazardous waste management facilities at various states, industries can dispose waste generated without any risk, because today every state has the common facilities, common hazardous waste management facilities, at least one facility. In Gujarat, there are 8 or 9 facilities in operation. So, and at the with the industrialization, with the generation of the waste, we are comfortably, the industries can comfortably treat and dispose their waste. So very comfortable level after 1995, say after 1995, these facilities. Before 95, there were no much facilities. Once site is suspected having contamination, detailed studies will let you. One of the basic reason for taking care, proper management of waste is that avoiding contamination to the land, contamination to the water, and contamination to the air. So once a site is suspected having contamination, you have to do detailed studies. Contaminated site, a site with a confirmed presence of dangerous substances. So it's a contaminated site. Many people say contaminated site, but you need to have a assessment, and then you have to confirm there is a presence of this such a dangerous or toxic substances. The Love Canal incident in USA, I will maybe able to explain on that one. USA forced the government to enact CERCLA or Superfund Act in 1980, because in USA it's a major fund, super fund, to clean up or remediate the sites. Cleaning up or remediation of the contaminated sites, they have a special act called Superfund Act, which is enacted in 1980. European Union also have guidelines for addressing environmental contamination. There are several sites across the world contaminated because of the old practices. So many of them have already been remediated or brought back to the original state, or there are a lot of remediation activities going on. This is one of the major activities of environmental professionals today in the developed countries, remediation, because the old practices has given a lot of problem. And today, luckily in India, we don't have that much problem, because our industrialization started very late. For all these cleanup or remediation, there are different standards. US EPA standards are there, other countries their own, but the famous standards, Dutch standards. Dutch standards, Dutch norms are considered by many people, many European countries, and many, we also refer the Dutch standards. Large number of contaminated sites have been remediated successfully world over. So if a site is contaminated, it can be brought back, it can be remediated, but it is with a lot of effort, lot of money. So very expensive activity. Contamination can be due to improper handling of chemicals or waste at the site. So while manufacturing, if you don't handle properly, store the materials properly, if it leaks and everything, sometimes what is happening, an accident happens, a fire incident, you extinguish using lot of water and everything, that water spills over and the chemical spills over, soil and the groundwater can be contaminated. So many ways people use wrong practices, and over the years there are a lot of contamination many places. Remediation is a costly exercise, I told already. Soil remediation or groundwater remediation is time consuming and may take several years. So it's not a very easy step, it's a risky step. So you need a lot of effort and you of expertise, and every site has its own characteristics. So site specific remediation practices will have to be followed. So here comes the expertise, and the people with the chemical engineering background, environmental background, they can work with or even civil engineering background, they can all work and contribute. In India, contamination related issues are coming up. With the prevention of pollution and adoption of precautionary principle, we will be able to minimize the problem. That is why everyone realizes, every country has realized that pollution prevention is the important, and always focus needs to be there. And the precautionary principle, every activity of handling waste or chemical handling, processing, this precautionary principle you have to, many of the informations are not known. So this is a precautionary principle. Health effects are sometimes not known. So all these needs to be taken care. So I will, since there is a 2 hour session and the subject, so I have taken some examples and everything, so that we will come to the subject gradually. So Superfund, I told you there is a Superfund Act and everything. The Federal Superfund Program, administered by the US Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, is designed to investigate and clean up sites contaminated with hazardous substances. Sites managed under this program are referred to as Superfund sites. It's a national sites. They are listed. There are 40,000 federal Superfund sites across the country in USA, and approximately 1,600 of those sites have been listed on the national priorities list because they have severity due to the problem, the contamination. So they are included in the national priorities list, which are being addressed initially. Sites on the NPL are considered the most highly contaminated undergo longer term remediation. There is a cleanup. So another incident, Cocoa, Nigeria. There is an incident in 1988. Italian businessmen illegally dumped over 2,000 drums, 2,000 drums, sacks and containers full of hazardous waste in a small fishing village in southern Nigeria. So 88, about 2,000 drums containing waste, hazardous waste. They have dumped in Nigeria. This is from Italy. Italian businessman has done in Nigeria. So this is why transboundary movement is waste is happening, and that was needed control. So later this one country, developed country, sending to underdeveloped country. So that was happening. The waste was claimed by the dealer to be fertilizers that would help poor farmers. But instead, it turned into a nightmare. So while giving, they give some label, this is a fertilizer, or this is a very good recover, you can recover and use, and very good items. So people accepted with a very welcomed it. Few months later, the containers started leaking, causing stomach upset, headache, failing sight, and death to the local community. The area around the dump site was rendered inhabitable, and 500 residents were evacuated. People in the Cocoa village still remember, and they call it drums of death. So Italy businessman illegally dumped in Nigeria, and the sufferers are the Nigerian, that particular local cocoa area, that villages. So it's a big such a incidents happen. So another is a not very old Ivory Coast toxic waste dump. Most of you must have read this one. This has happened in somewhere in 2006. In the 2006 Ivory Coast toxic waste dump was a health crisis in Ivory Coast, in which a ship registered in Panama. So here also a lot of countries are involved. That is why Basel Convention has come. Panama, the Probocola, chartered by the Singaporean-based oil and commodity shipping company, Trafigura Behir, offloaded toxic waste to an Ivorian waste handling company, which disposed of it at the port of Abidjan. So what is happening in all these activities, several people are involved, especially there will be a local person, local company or local agency who will make a lot of money, and beneficiaries are there, the generator, the transporter, and the dumping person. The local contractor, a company called Tommy, dumped the waste at 12 sites in and around the city in August 2006. So he has accepted, and he managed the material by dumping everywhere. This is a ship carrying the toxic that ship which was carrying and traveling across several places. The dumping which took place against a backdrop of instability in Abidjan, as a result of country's first civil war. There was a civil war in the country, allegedly led to the death of 17 persons directly died, and injury to more than 30,000 people. So this particular incident has got very much attention in 2006, because there are 17 people died and a lot of people, 30,000 people is a large number of people got affected. Trafigura originally planned to dispose of the slopes, which resulted from cleaning the vessel, and contained 500 tons of a mixture of fuel, caustic soda, and hydrogen sulfide at the port of Amsterdam. The company refused to pay Dutch company Amsterdam Port Services APS for disposal after APS raised its charge from euros 27 to euro 1000 per cubic meter. So the reason is there was facility for treating at the Amsterdam, and they were ready to treat it. But originally the agreed rate was only 27 euro. But finally, when it come APS, the Amsterdam Port Services told that they want 1000 euro per cubic meter. It is a very high increase and cost is very high. So this, the Probocola was reportedly turned away by several countries before offloading the toxic waste at the port of Abidjan. So this Probocola, the ship was traveling with the waste where it will get the opportunity, because it was under the radar. So it has already gone and moved, and finally this ivory because somebody accepted money and he has done this wrong thing. So this is the dumping area. One photograph of the dumping. You can see where the material is dumped and the people cleaning up or removing the mist. You can see some activity. So shortly after it became apparent that the toxic slopes from the Probacola had led to the outbreak of sickness. There was a sickness, people started problem. Two executives, Claude Dauphin and Jean-Pierre Valentini, traveled to Abidjan. They were arrested on 18th September, 4 days after their arrival, and were held in Abidjan's prison, charged with breaking the country's laws against poisoning. So these people were arrested. The head of the Ivorian contractor who dumped more than 500 tons of toxic waste was sentenced to 20 years in prison in November 2008. It took some time to develop. On 13th February 2007, Trafigura agreed to pay the Ivorian government 100 million pounds for the cleanup of the site. So, cost you see, they have agreed to pay. Then on 16th November 2012, Trafigura and the Dutch authorities agreed for a settlement. So finally, because different countries are, Dutch authorities are involved, the other people are involved, so Ivorian people are involved. So finally, they have come to an agreement. The settlement obliges Trafigura to pay the existing 1 million euro fine. And in addition, the company must also pay Dutch authorities a further 300,000 euros in compensation. The money is saved by dumping the toxic waste in Abidjan rather than having it properly disposed of in the Netherlands. So you see, the authorities have taken strict steps and caught the people and fined it, imprisoned. Then also they have heavy penalty, 1 million euro for the cleanup and everything, 300,000, 3 million, I think 3 lakh euros for compensation. That was the original treatment. So all these are very risky and high, this one. So this is a very big lesson for this one. So all this led to this Basel Convention. One of the incidents which led to the creation of the Basel Convention was the Khian sea waste disposal incident, in which a ship carrying incinerator ash from the city of Philadelphia in the United States dumped half of its load on a beach in Haiti before being forced away. So all the USA companies were doing all wrong things earlier. They were doing all wrong things. That is why they were doing this, managing this thing, and they were dumping waste uh, near Haiti. So beach, in a beach area, they were forced to go away. It sailed for many months, changing its name several times. So once you are under the radar, they can't escape easily. So they, just like the nameplates are changed in the car, the chief, these people, robbers, change its name several times. Unable to unload the cargo in any port, the crew was believed to have dumped much of it at sea. So they have managed it. They have dumped it into this one, is the one of the lesson by this one. Basel Convention is on the control of transboundary movements of hazardous waste, and their disposal is the most comprehensive global environmental treaty on hazardous and other waste. So Basel Convention was opened for signature on 22nd March 1989 and entered into force on 5th May 1992. So because of the issues which the countries are facing, especially developed countries generate huge quantities of waste, and they were managing dumping rather than treating and disposing. So simply sending to the underdeveloped countries and managing it. So this was happening, and to prevent that transboundary movement, one country to another, this Basel Convention was brought. So this has come into force on 5th May 1992. As of now, 189 states and the European Union are parties to the convention. Only 53 countries are signatories, and many countries have already implemented. And our hazardous waste rules are, even 1989 we made the first rule, then we adopted this Basel Convention, and we are matching to that Basel Convention, and we are updated our rules and regulations. Under the Basel Convention, a waste falls under the scope of convention if it is within the category of waste listed in Annexure 1 of the convention, and it exhibits one of the hazardous characteristics. Any of the hazardous. In other words, it must both be listed and possess a characteristic such as being explosive, flammable, toxic, or corrosive. The other way that a waste may fall under the scope of the convention is it defined or considered to be a hazardous waste under the laws of either the exporting country, the importing country, or any of the countries of transit. So if the countries have a rules and regulation, and if by that regulation, if it is a waste, hazardous waste, then also it is a hazardous waste. So Basel is a lot of provisions are there. I am not going into the detail. Now let us come to the our regulations, Indian regulations. So all of you know the Environmental Protection Act 1986. A lot of discussions are there. I think you also must have discussed, because in most of the seminars or many of the workshops, Bhopal tragedy is already discussed. In our memory, it is there. So after that accident in 1984, the Environmental Protection Act has been enacted by our parliament, and it is a very umbrella act. So under this, various rules are coming, and for the hazardous waste management and handling rules, the first rule came in 1989, but it was a preliminary rule. But then there were amendments in 2000, 2003 for this rule. And in 2008, this has been repealed. These rules, existing rules have been repealed, and the hazardous waste management, handling, and transboundary movement rules 2008 has been enacted. So this is only as per this is adopting this Basel Convention. India is a signatory to the Basel. So we have adopted this and accordingly this 2008 rule has been made. And subsequently, this was going on. And in April 2016, after repealing this rule, cancelling this rule, new rule, hazardous and other waste management and transboundary movement rules 2016 have been published, notified, and this is being today it is prevailing. So this has been modified and included with all the provisions, all the requirements of the Basel Convention. So salient features of the rules 2016 shall apply to the management of hazardous and other waste as specified in the schedules of these rules. And it shall not apply to wastewater and exhaust gases, operations from ships beyond 5 kilometers, radioactive waste, biomedical waste, domestic waste, because there are separate rules for the other waste handling. So this is exclusion. This biomedical waste, there is a separate rule for biomedical waste rules. So many rules are there. For example, in 2016, you see there are 6 rules have been notified. Biomedical waste, hazardous waste rules, Municipal solid waste rules, again, that is there. Construction and demolition waste, e-waste rules. So all 6 waste management rules have been notified, modified and notified in plastic processing also. There are 6 rules which has been there, waste management rules. 2016, there are a lot of modification, lot of updation has taken place in 2016. This rule, structure of this rule, hazardous waste rule, is total 6 chapters, 8 schedules and 12 forms. This rule has 6 chapters. Chapter 1 deals with the applicability and important definition. Chapter 2 deals with the provisions of waste management with respect to responsibilities of various stakeholders. Chapter 3 deals with the provision of import and export. Chapter 4 deals with the provisions of treatment, storage and disposal of hazardous and other waste. So here they have given what are the requirements, what are the basic requirements they have given in chapter 4. Chapter 5 deals with the packaging, labeling, transport of hazardous and other waste. Chapter 6 with the different miscellaneous provisions in the chapter 6. So this is this one. Schedule 1, list of processes generating hazardous waste. What is happening in schedule 1? They have given 38 processes with the different, each process generating various hazardous waste streams with the characteristic number. So there is a, I will give an example later from a pharmaceutical sector, how for that, what is the category number and everything. So I'm not again. So each industrial sector has a number, and there may be 5 or 6 categories listed. These are called a listed waste. So they are listed waste. If it is coming, say, for example, solvent waste from a pesticide industry, it may have a number like 29.3. Then it is a hazardous waste. Then schedule 2 is list of waste constituents with the concentration limits. So schedule 2 is any waste having some toxic materials concentration exceeding the prescribed limit. So for example, if it is having hexavalent chromium above some, say, 5 milligram per kg or something like that, there is a limit given, then it becomes a hazardous waste. So it is based on the concentration. For that, there is a procedure also there. You have to do a leachate test. Leachate, you have to make a leachate, and that leachate is also made using a US EPA methodology called TCLP test, toxicity characteristic leaching procedure test. So it is done, and you extract that material. Then you have to do the analysis depending on the constituent you are looking. You have to do atomic absorption spectrophotometer or GC or whatever it be. Then you get that. Then if that limit exceeds, then is considered to be a hazardous waste. Schedule 3 is it is for the import and export actually. Schedule 4 is also the recyclable waste. Then schedule 5, specification of used oil for recycling. So there are 2 categories of oil. One is used oil, another is waste oil. Waste oil is contaminated, so you cannot recycle in as such into this one. Whereas used oil can be recycled. You can reprocess and use it in an application. Waste oil can be used as a fuel. That is the only possibility. Then another is schedule 6, prohibited materials for import. Then list of authorities and corresponding duties. Then list of documents for verification by customs schedule, because that is import and export may this is happening. If still there are certain things they are allowing to import, for that only. Forms, form number 1 is application required for grant or renewal of authorization. So there is even if you do co-processing or recovery or everything, you need an authorization. So for that, form number 1 is given. Form 2 is the Pollution Control Board gives authorization or in this form. That is a form number 2. So they will have to give the details. Form 3 is a format for maintaining records of hazardous and other waste. There is a format for maintaining how much opening stock is there, how much is generated, how much you treated, and how much you disposed of, and all this needs to come, and what is the closing stock. Form number 4 is format for annual returns. You have to give the details in form number 4. Form number 5, application for import or export. So that is also certain things are allowed for import or export. That is for that particular thing, it is there. So I will go through some of the definitions. So very important that waste means materials that are not products or byproducts. So it is very important. It's not products or byproducts for which the generator has no further use for the purpose of production, transformation, or consumption. So waste is something which is coming ultimately. Waste, the materials that may be generated during the extraction of raw materials, the processing of raw materials into intermediates and final products, the consumption of final products, and through other human activities, and excludes residual, recycled, or reused at the place of generation. So what is remaining only is the waste as per the waste definition. Byproduct means a material that is not intended to be produced but gets produced in the production process of intended product and is used as such. Many processes which we know in the manufacturing, we use different raw materials and we intend to get an X product, but along with that, you get Y and Z byproducts like HCl, H2S, or many other things are there as a byproduct. So in the reactions in chemistry, you get something which is not required by us, but it comes along with the chemistry because of that one. So that are byproducts. So this is the first time byproduct has been defined in the rule. Earlier it was not there. So this rule has brought, and definitely this has brought a lot of confusion into the industry and the authority. Hazardous waste means any waste which by reason biological, reactive, toxic, flammable, explosive, or corrosive of characters such as physical, chemical, causes danger or is likely to cause danger to health or environment, whether alone or in contact with other waste or substances, and shall include waste specified in Schedule 1. I told you Schedule 1 have 38 processes. Waste in 2 with the concentration limits, that is Schedule 2. And then waste is specified in Part A, Schedule 3 in respect of import or export. So this, if it is included, then it can be as per the rule, is classified as a hazardous waste. Another important definition is co-processing. Most of you must have heard nowadays. Means the use of waste materials in manufacturing processes for the purpose of energy or resource recovery. Both is possible. Energy recovery, then resource recovery, and resultant reduction in the use of conventional fuels or raw materials through substitution. So co-processing is practiced by several cement industries, several steel industries. So this is has attained very big attention last decade and is going on big way. I will give that some example also. Other waste means waste is specified in Part B and Part D of Schedule 3 for import or export. So it is especially for import or export. So it is defined in specifically defined, and it is not generated in India. So for example of the categorization as per the rule, for example, if any industry is generating ETP sludge, the category is called 35.3. So this is a listed waste. ETP sludge is a listed waste with a category number 35.3. Used oil is a 5.1. It can be given to the registered recyclers. Drums, contamination containers and all 33.1. This can be given to decontamination, detoxification, and it can be given to approved scrap processes. Process distillation residue from a pesticide plant is called 29.1. It is to be incinerated. Like that one, there are different categories like batteries A5, asbestos B21, off specification from products from a pharmaceutical company comes at 28.4 incineration. Similarly, date expired or off specification product from a pesticide plant comes with 29.3. So this gives a very clear cut category of manufacturing and or processing and the waste category. So from that one, I think about 128 categories are listed there, and uh, uh, this number definitely identifies the material. Now they have given responsibilities of the occupier, follow the hierarchy of waste management, that is waste minimization, reuse, recycling, recovery, utilization, including co-processing as a safe disposal. This is occupier, the owner. Occupier of facility shall be responsible for safe and environmentally sound management of hazardous and other waste. Hazardous and other waste generated shall be recycled only by the authorized actual user. It cannot be given to anyone. It should be authorized party or shall be disposed of in an authorized disposal facility. So also they have to give all the required information to the common facility. So this is the brief responsibilities given to the occupier or the owner of the industry or operation. Similarly, Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change, they are the nodal agency to deal with the transboundary movement of hazardous and other waste. They have to identification of the waste, grant permission for import and export. Then those are they promote environmentally sound management, hazardous and other waste. Also, they sponsor various training programs, awareness program, and everything at the responsibility of the Ministry of Environment and Forest. Central Pollution Control Board is the coordinator of activities of State Pollution Control Board. They conduct various capacity building programs, just like this program. They conduct various capacity building for the State Pollution Control Board and the industry people. And they prepare various standards and specifications. Even today, I will show how the recycling of various process waste and everything. There is they have to prepare standard operating procedures. That also they do prepare standard operating procedures, so that so many such waste streams can be converted into useful products or it can be used. So those are their responsibilities. State has they have to identify the sites, carry out the facilitate the EIA environmental impact. Then major responsibility they have to notification of the sites, and also they have to publish the inventory of hazardous waste generation in the state. State Pollution Control Board inventorization they have to do, how much is there, and they have the responsibility to grant and renewal of the authorization. The industries handling hazardous waste in any way, they need to have an authorization under this rule, and that is given by the State Pollution Control Board. Then they have to comply with monitor the compliances. Then action has to be taken against the violators. So implementation of programs to prevent or reduce or minimization of the generation, these are also responsibility. It's a lot of they have to monitor the setup. Director General of Foreign Trade and Port Authority, because this is applicable basically for the import and export ke liye. Both they have to verify the documents and they have to grant a license required for them. So all these are coming there. If you see earlier, I say 25 years back, our ports were having huge quantities of JNPT port and all, huge thousands of tons of waste material lying. There was no owners. It was lying somebody important and it was lying there, and it was cleanup activities. There was a Supreme Court appointed high power committee and they were looking into this one. So such activities were there. That is why a lot of focus has been given to prevent import of the material. Actual users responsibility to obtain authorization, then maintain records. And here, if you are utilizing the waste for any purpose, and you have to maintain a passbook for a record that is issued by the Pollution Control Board along with the authorization. Maintain records of waste handling, how much you have received, how much you processed, and how much you have sold. So this needs to be. And also you have to ensure the standards, compliance. Importers, they have to do proper, they have to obtain the proper license, they have to proper do as the procedure. Then obtain EPR, extended producer responsibility. You know, that is for certain items like electric items, that is very important. They have to maintain records in Form 3, obtain authorization, file annual return. So these all importers will have to do this one, so that so this is the packaging and labeling in the rule. How to all the any hazardous waste container needs to have proper labeling, so that people take care. It should not be transported along with any food items or edible items. Earlier, such incidents has happened with this such issues. So even chemicals you can see in our area, many of the industrial estates lying. So people sit on that one, and this very contamination chances are there. It needs to be very take care. Lot of labeling, identification. Even the industries, what is happening? Even the industries, uh, there are issues. Waste versus raw materials or products without the proper labeling. This is a form number 3 for maintaining records. I told you there is a format for record. How much is the generation? How much is the recovery? How much is the disposal quantity? Everything needs to be recorded in a this one. This is called. Another important document is manifest system. Manifest system is a movement document for hazardous and other waste to be used within the country. Sender of waste shall prepare 7 copies of manifest in form number 10, comprising of color codes, and 7 copies shall be signed by sender. So this is a tracking system. The sender has to fill this one, and while this is helping in the transportation, and this for tracking this total transportation. And today there are other requirements also come. All the vehicles, transportation vehicle should be having GPS system. GPS mounted vehicles only can be used for the transportation. So all these are how come, but manifest system is one thing, universally it is being used. So this is the format where with the date and the people fill, and different color codes are there. So all details are there, and this is given to the transporter with his signature, and then it goes to the disposal facility or the receiver, and he uh, uh, receives it, and he gives stamps and return. And finally, this copy is sent to the Pollution Control Board. So this is a different color, and these are there 7 copies. 7th copy is required only for the interstate. Otherwise, 6 copies are in the within state. The 6 copies are there, and different colors are also there. So now what is happened? The pollution control boards have started online manifest system. So this is not a real paper copy is not required. So that is also very easy. So online that facility is there. People fill up and send it, and it's a very tracking is very easy. So it can show where the vehicles are lying, and along with the GPS, it is very useful. So now we will go to another important area, utilization of hazardous waste under the hazardous waste rule 9. Utilization is a very people today they say in technologically this is a this area needs lot of expertise and the lot of research work. Academic institutions also needs can take up such research projects or projects, small projects, so that many waste streams can be converted into useful products you can recover. So rule number 9 under this one is facilitating this. The utilization of hazardous and other waste as a resource or after pre-processing, either for co-processing or any other use, including within the premises of the generator, if it is not part of the process, shall be carried out only after obtaining authorization from the SPCB. So this is only in respect of waste on the basis of standard operating procedure or guidelines provided by Central Pollution Control Board. So this is very important. If you have a waste stream and you have found some utilization, then you have to prepare the generator, or the people will have to work out and get the take up and get the SOP, standard operating procedure, for that utilization prepared and submitted to the committees, and they publish this SOP. Then only State Pollution Control Board will give the permission. Whereas where standard operating procedures or guidelines are not available for specific utilization, the approval has to be sought from CPCB. So which shall be granting approval based on the trial runs. So then they make the SOP. So what is happening if it is a first time some utilization, then a trial run or visit inspection, they look the characteristics and then only they give the permission. So there are several SOPs under rule number 9. Already I have seen 53 SOPs have been published by Central Pollution Control Board. Say, for example, recovery of solvents from spent solvents containing toluene, xylene, etc. from a particular manufacturer. So there is an SOP published by Central Pollution Control. So if somebody have this particular process and they have this such solvent, they can use this SOP for getting the permission in the authorization to give somebody to utilize. Another is a utilization of APCD dust, air pollution control dust, residue generated from LD furnace or electric arc furnace of a steel plant. There the dust they can utilize for producing cold briquettes for use in blast furnace. So they can use it such a activity. So they have taken up and got. Then utilization of spent catalyst containing precious metals to recover platinum and everything. Platinum, iridium, osmium. So this also has got a, so it is a waste spent catalyst, but you have a SOP so that you can follow the SOP and get the then you apply and get the authorization, and that person can utilize and recover. So then it is not a waste. Utilization of spent sulfuric acid generated from pickling operations for manufacturing ferrous sulfate. So this is also another sulfuric acid, spent sulfuric acid from pickling operations. They take up and they can be converted into ferrous sulfate. Utilization of spent acid containing molybdenum generated from filament industries for producing molybdenum dioxide by heating process. This is a specific process they have given and they got the SOP. Utilization of spent HCl generated from steel rolling mills for producing ferric chloride. So this is only for a specific process they have taken, because spent HCl will have some contamination and characteristics. So that SOP is specifically for that particular stream and the SOP. So each industry or the generator will have to identify the requirement, and then they have to characterize and they develop the process for that one, and then SOP their own, and then take up so that they will approve it, and then it will come as an SOP for that particular stream. If one industry, if it developed for a particular process, this can be used by other people also. This is an example of utilization of ETP sludge from pulp and paper industry. It's a hazardous waste otherwise. So chemical sludge of ETP, including sludge from secondary clarifier. It's a pepper. So for energy recovery in atmospheric fluidized bed combustion boiler. So this is a fuel replacement. Some sludge is there from ETP, from a pepper industry, having calorific value. So you dry it and use it as a fuel. So there is an SOP already there. So that particular industry, pulp and paper industry. So similarly, there are 53 SOPs have already been published by Central Pollution Control Board. You can go through the CPCB website and understand. And this case is one of the resource recovery option. There is another SOP by CPCB for drum decontamination and reuse, because a large number of containers are generated in chemical industries and other industries. So there is an SOP for waste or chemicals or oil and lubricants drums or barrels and everything. You have the SOP, how to decontaminate, detoxify, and how to reuse, and how it can be there. If you follow that one, that authorization can be obtained, and the people are already practicing this. So that is on rule number 9. So implementation part, if you see, it is a very complex problem. It is not like a wastewater treatment, air pollution. This hazardous waste is more complex, because different chemicals are involved. We don't know the characteristics in many way, and so the technologies required are very complex. And once you do something, you generate, you may change. For example, if you treat or incinerate, you generate ash, which is a hazardous waste again, and you generate air pollution. So air pollution, you again scrub with a caustic or other media, then you generate a scrub solution. That scrub solution you again treat with lime and other, you generate a solid waste. So it is a vicious circle. So problem is not solved in everywhere, but by doing that one, by doing this step by step, when you do, the toxicity is reduced, hazardous nature is reduced, and the volume is reduced. So that is why waste management is very important. Different options are to be used, and different activities will have to be done. So this is a you all with the chemical industrial background or chemical engineering background or industrial background, you know the sources of generation from the raw materials, solvents, and various additives to the chemical manufacturing process. You get the product, you get the byproducts, then you get the different streams of waste, like waste streams, solid waste or filtration residues. Effluent goes to the ETP treated residues. Air pollution control system, you get the waste. Like that one, different sources. You all know, and not going into the detail. Hazardous waste generation in India, as per CPCB, about 7.2 million TPA. That is 72 lakh tons in a year. It is generated by about 60,000 countries. It is about 2 years old data. So I had taken earlier from their site. So it contains about 44% is landfillable. So most of the inorganic waste can go to the landfill, and it is landfillable. 47% is recyclable. That is important. Lot of materials like gypsum and many other things are recyclable. Another 8.5% is incinerable. Luckily, small quantity, but 0.65 is about 6.5 lakh ton is a very huge quantity incinerable waste. About 83% of total hazardous waste is generated from 7 states: Gujarat, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Andhra, West Bengal, and Chhattisgarh. So industrialized, especially chemical industries and other metal processing industries, they generate a lot of hazardous waste. If you see the scenarios today, I have seen the latest position. There are 29 common secured landfill facilities in the country. That is in 16 states, and there are 14 common incinerators. But some facilities are having landfill and common incinerator. This is status which is given. I don't know, you can read. There are in Gujarat also the different positions are given. Gujarat has 3 integrated facilities with both SLF and the incinerator, secured landfill and the incinerator. Only common incinerator, there are 3, and with the only common secured landfills, there are 4. So there are 10 facilities in Gujarat. Many states have at least one facility, most of the states. So some states like Assam, they are coming up with the hazardous waste facility. This is the scenario, state-wise, how much is there, how much is hazardous waste recyclable, and the quantity given in the percentage recycle generation quantity and the recyclable quantity, because majority of the quantities are recyclable. And the hazardous waste, basic important thing is the characteristics is very important. Ignitability. Flash point less than 60 degree, it can catch fire. Ignitability, corrosivity. You know that the pH less than 2 or about 12.5. It attacks the metallic parts. Corrosivity is a big problem. If you keep in containers, some of the things gets corroded and comes out. Reactivity is another thing. It's a very dangerous thing. One of the property, substances that are unstable under normal condition can cause explosion, produce toxic fumes or vapors. For example, you know, acid and alkali. If you mix, there is a big reactivity. Similarly, cyanide, sulfide, batteries. There are a lot of things which react together if you mix, and it gives a problem. So it's one of the, for people handling hazardous waste in the common facilities, our headache is reactivity. Mainly, it's very, very difficult to find out the reactivity, and it's a big problem. Toxicity is another thing. These materials, many of the chemicals are having harmful when ingested or absorbed, leach from waste and pollute groundwater, lead, mercury, and several other. So all these components gives a waste a hazardous characteristics and headache. So this is the one methodology given for the waste is identify whether it is a hazardous, then you do the processing. If it as per the schedule one, if it falls, you go for, and it's hazardous and do. Otherwise, exceed the concentration schedule 2, then you look into that one and becomes a hazardous waste and do this one. And so there are high volume, there are different guidelines also given, low effect waste and everything, just like red mud. They have given some disposal practices, but when the concentration is high and the listed waste, you have to do proper disposal. Waste hierarchy, which I would like to again, I think in every discussions, this is prevention of waste generation, use of waste as byproduct, recovery, recycling and reuse, treatment and disposal. Last option is the disposal. First, prevention is the most important. Again, this picture shows the what is the waste hierarchy. Most favored option is prevention, and the least favored option is disposal. Other activities like when you do recycling, energy recovery is another thing. Everyone is interested in energy now. So this is all important, but disposal is the last. And the disposal actually quantity should be very minimum. Very minimum quantity after the treatment and everything. And if possible, we should avoid. Waste minimization, process control, sound engineering practices, quality control, converting waste to useful products, reuse, recovery, process route change. All these are in the our plan that people are practicing, and very competitive products we are making. So it's very important that a lot of R&D works, a lot of improvements are required in all. Byproducts and waste is very important, and I told you that there are a lot of byproducts are generated in the process, HCl, ammonia, and everything. And converting them into saleable products is very important. So it today, as per the 2016 rules, byproducts are to be included in the environmental clearance. You have to get the environmental whenever there is there, you have to include that one. Then this you need to include in your consent and the authorization. Otherwise, this they may consider them as the hazardous waste. They may not, you cannot give. So this is one of the thing, byproduct versus hazardous waste. And there is a guideline prepared very recently in April, I think, April, framework on identification of materials generated from industrial process or waste or byproducts. So there is a framework prepared, and which helps you to identify. So there is a, this is the framework. It's little difficult to understand, but I will just tell you. Uh, I don't know, is it readable, but you can refer to the CPCB website and get this this one. So here the, if it is a waste is listed in schedule 1, that yes, arrow goes to the material is last red column, hazardous or other waste, and you have to do it properly. But otherwise, if the and you have some usage, generator to conduct a pre-feasibility study and make an application to the concerned state pollution control board. So then what they do, examination of application and put to the technical expert committee for their appraisal, then examination of the feasibility, and they look every aspect and gives a TOR. Then recommendation to the technical expert committee. Then SPCPC is to decide the feasibility based on the recommendation of the expert committee. Then if it is found feasible, they give the TOR. Then preparation and submission of the environmental impact and risk assessment study reports and safety data sheets by the generator to the SPCB. Their appraisal and making of the recommendation by the technical. Then final decision by the pollution control board based on the recommendation. If the claim is accepted, they make it as a byproduct. So that is one methodology. Other methodology is you get it included in the environmental clearance. So if it is there included in the environmental clearance as a byproduct, then it is there. Otherwise, all the waste will have to go for the disposal, treatment and disposal, or other normal hazardous waste processes. So this is one thing. This is for categorizing waste into byproduct. I am not talking about the rule number. There is a provision called rule number. If you already know this is a hazardous waste, if you want to recover or use, that is called rule number 9. This is not, this is a separate framework where if you have any waste stream and if you find that is a byproduct, if you find some utilization as a byproduct, so you need to include and get it accepted so that you can sell it as a byproduct. So there is a procedure framework and the committees are there. So this you can utilize, and there is a lot of scope for the academic institutions and the consultants to work on this one. Industry is already making use of this one. So hazardous waste management strategy. Now I have, I think, only 20 minutes. I have to speed up. There are different waste I have talked. The treatment option, inorganic waste secured landfilling. For example, acidic waste neutralization, waste with heavy metal stabilization, organic waste treatment, solvent recovery, usage as fuel in cement kilns, incineration, so thermal degradation. So these are the methodology. Secured landfill is, this is it's an engineered landfill, designed facility. It is for the landfill. It can be captive or common. It is only a storage. This is only a storage. But land is getting utilized in this one. But while designing, you have to take care that land is not contaminated, soil is not contaminated, and there is no issue or no leakage and everything. So isolate the waste from the environment. For that, liner is required. Contain the toxic leachate within the landfill. Contamination, prevent contamination of land. So I don't know why. So this is the liner system. Liner system is various liner system. This is the construction details. Composite liners are there. This liner system, you have the clay liner, then HDP liner and everything. Then this is the construction of the landfill with using different multiple liner system. So this is an example, top coverage after the filling up and everything. Again, at the bottom there are clay liner, HDP liner and everything. Then again at the top then finally what is it becomes like a box. It is material is inside. It is just like a material. Nothing can go inside and nothing can go out. There will be some leachate collection system which you can take out the leachate. Similarly, there will be gas vents, something provided, and venting will be there. Otherwise, no rainwater will enter, nothing will enter once you cap it totally. So it becomes encapsulated type totally. These are the acceptance criteria for direct landfilling. There is a publication where some waste has certain characteristics. It should not have. This is based on the leachate characteristics. If you leach out and goes outside, that can give problems. So they have given a lot of specifications like pH 4 to 12. Say, for example, phenol should be less than 100 milligram per liter. Like that, they have given various this one. Design criteria, leachate management is very important. Leachate is generated on account of infiltration of water in landfills. Significant quantity of leachate is generated during active phase of landfill, because there is an active phase, then closed phase. Later, after the capping, you have to maintain the site for 30 years. Leachate quantity will reduce after coverage. Proper leachate drainage, collection, removal, and treatment system should be incorporated. Treatment and disposal of discarded packing materials, I told already, there are different the standards have been published by this one. This is on co-processing, which we did in 1998. 1998, we tried a large-scale trials in Saurashtra Cement, co-processing, perhaps the first time in India. Now the standards have come up. It was my project work in research work also. So this we did, and we found, and I published a paper in 1998 in a journal. And subsequent, and meanwhile, there are a lot of people like Holcim and Lafarge, and they were working and they were campaigning. So cement kiln have all the favorable conditions: time, temperature, and turbulence required for complete destruction of organic compounds. Today, more than 1 lakh ton metric ton waste is co-processed in India. So much this one. So this is a way in a cement kiln. When you put something like this one, it is a very high temperature and high, very length, because incinerator has a small length, maybe 8 or 10 meter, whereas cement will have 200 meter and all, very length, and very high temperature, turbulence, and alkaline media. Lime is there, limestone is there in that one. So all these factors are. So there is a temperature above 1400 degrees centigrade, high residence time. All these are favorable factors. There is a guideline for co-processing also published by Central Pollution Control Board. There is a guideline for various materials. There is a lot of this one. So pre-processing is there. All waste cannot go directly to the co-processing. So you need to have some blending, mixing, and bring to some quality. So this guideline gives that those information.
Yes.
Emission standards for the cement kilns also have been published by the, because if you use hazardous waste for co-processing, you have to take care of the emissions. So that also, like a particulate matter should be less than, new plants less than 30. So all these are given, and even including the components like dioxins and furans is a 0.1 nanogram per T cube per normal meter cube. So there are specifications given for cement plants also when you use the hazardous waste. Now the another method of treatment technology is the incineration, which all of you may be knowing. Incineration is the second oldest method for the disposal of waste, the oldest being landfill. Incineration is a process of fast exothermic oxidation. Incineration is the combustion of waste in a controlled way. It is not open burning. In order to destroy the waste or transform the waste into less hazardous, less bulky, or more controllable constituents. See, all these words are very important. Incineration, when you do, you get ash, very small quantity. Incineration can provide safe, efficient, economic, and reliable disposal. This is the chemistry. You see oxidation, and it gives CO2, water, HCl, SO2, NO2. Two-stage incineration will give a better destruction. Today, everything two-stage facility. So a waste contains organic matter can be incinerated. Waste heat recovery and proper power generation must always be considered secondary to the prime job of the incinerator's waste disposal. So all these are very important in the incineration. There are a lot of things to be taken care in there are three basic things like a T is called time, temperature, and turbulence. Residence time in the post-combustion chamber, the second chamber, residence time of gas must be at least 2 seconds from point of last injection of combustor. So temperature is above 1100 degrees centigrade. Required it with 2 seconds gas residence time for complete, and there should be complete turbulence. So these three factors are important. So rotary kilns are generally favored for the incineration or other compared to many other. The time, temperature, and turbulence. Design consideration, types of waste characteristics you should know, solid, liquid, and everything, heating value, thermal load, and what are the actual throughput. Okay. Design criteria is published by Central Pollution Control Board, and the guidelines are there. Emission standards are there. So, for example, they go for a very stringent particulate matter should be less than 50, HCl less than 50. Dioxins and furans also they have given 0.1 nanogram. So this is a very all heavy metals are also there. Characteristics of waste I have already discussed: the corrosive, ignitability, reactivity, and toxicity. So this is one photograph I have added. There is an incinerator pilot plant at Karlsruhe Research Institute at Germany. I have an opportunity to visit there in 2007, May 2007. So it's a very big plant. It is not a small plant. I think it's having capacity to incinerate, say, something like 500 kgs per hour. It is not a small plant, big plant with all infrastructure. And this is installed basically to study on the dioxin formation, dioxin chemistry. So I spent one day there and understood, and my friend Dr. Velo, he has explained me and he has published, and this team has come to Ankaleshwar or Bharuch in 2006 for ChemCon, and they have presented paper also. Dr. Velo has presented on their studies, and subsequently in 2007 I visited this plant and understood the dioxin chemistry and everything. It's very storage guidelines and everything. A lot of I will not go into this one. Now I think we get 10 minutes for the case study. We will go to the case study of BEIL. So this is a very this one three aspects are there: landfill, incinerator, another incinerator. So you know the common, it is already ISO 14000 and OSHA 18000 certified. One of the good considered to be one of the best facility in India. And so far it's operated 38 lakhs metric ton of hazardous waste have been disposed in landfill and incinerated more than 2.8 lakhs during the last 15 years. All the studies have been carried out, and it is supported by Professor Manoj Datta, IIT Delhi. Now he is retired and he is supporting in design and construction of the landfill. And similarly for the incineration facility, BAL have a tie-up. German experts are guiding. They are visiting and they are helping. And so that we need support from experts so that the facility can meet and can improve upon. Once you set up in a small way, but then you grow and you incorporate this one. We have done a lot of modifications, lot of things there. And after the incinerator was installed without the heat recovery system, then we installed the heat recovery. Now both the incinerators are having heat recovery system, and we are utilizing the heat or steam generated in multiple effect evaporator. Total plot area 69 acres. Manifest system is used. All the groundwater monitoring is there. Leachate collection wells are provided. Leachate is treated at the multiple effect evaporator. So that is very important. Earlier it was treated in the common effluent treatment plant, but because of its characteristics very difficult. So we are doing evaporating, and the salt is disposed in the landfill. Industrial waste. These are the categories people are giving drugs and who are giving the waste. 94 drugs and pharma, dyes and intermediate 144, pesticide 44, organic industries 146. So this is the split up of people giving to this is the construction below ground landfill. I am going to the landfill construction. So water table is about 29 meter below ground. So you excavate and make the clay liner blending with the bentonite so that you get the permeability of 10 to the power of -7 centimeter per second. Then at that you provide HDPE liner. This is also very important. So we get the imported lineage, and 2 mm thick HDP lineages are provided, and they are welded together, and the welding joints are vacuum tested and pressure tested to prevent any leakage. Then we provide the geotextiles and the sides concrete pitching so that it's not damaged. Side also lineages are there provided so that there is no percolation of leachate or solid waste into the soil. Then the waste disposal using hydraulic dumpers and all. Then you compact with the bulldozers, compact it so into this one. After that, you provide various lineages and they provide the final coverage so that there is no escape of material. And you can see the vent also. Vents are provided as a precaution so that if there is any gas generation that can come out. Then this is the drainage layer. So water, any rainwater should go out. It should not this one. So this is there. Then you give a vegetative coverage. This is a soft soil is there. Then you have this one. So nowadays we have converted because there is a to reduce the erosion. We are giving pitching at the top, and you can see small plants there. That is Jatropha biodiesel plants that is planted, and we are utilizing this area. Monsoon is a threat, and we give the operating area complete temporary coverage so that water entry is prevented, and you maintain for about that 4 to 5 months. Insurances are there like a public liability insurance, special contingency insurance, escrow fund, which is operated by Bank, Pollution Control Board, and BEIL. So that tomorrow, if we cannot run away, somebody should not run away. Even if somebody run away, there is a fund. So to take care and the rectification of activities. This is a common incinerator guideline. Accordingly, we have prepared this incinerator project. And incinerator has, each incinerator has 6.5 million kilocalories per hour capacity, and capacity is about 2.5 metric ton per hour. Two numbers are there. Various types of waste can be fed to this one. And so this is the scheme and the feeding system, quenching system, heat recovery, lime, dry scrubbing is there. VRABU, lime and carbon are injected, and back filters are there. Then you have wet scrubber where the caustic solution is circulated. Then you have the stack, and you have the continuous emission monitoring system. Rotary kiln, it's just like a cement kiln, 8-meter length and 3-meter dia. So it's inside refractory lined. So this is the primary chamber or first chamber, first stage. Second stage is there into the post-combustion chamber, which is a tall cylindrical vessel, which is designed to give that 2 seconds gas residence time. And you can see that yellow line, that is the natural gas line, which is the fuel used in there, maintaining the temperature. Then there is evaporative cooler or gas conditioning tower for quenching. Then these are the fuel supply system. This is the inside plan view. Submerged ash conveyor. So ash is taken and that is disposed in the landfill. Dioxin monitoring was done in the initial stage itself in 2005, and every year we do at least 2 times. The requirement is once in a year. We do at least 2 times, and always these results are within limit. This is second common incineration system installed after the first one. First one was done somewhere in 2005. Second one was in 2012. Then waste heat recovery system was incorporated along with the second one, then added there. So after that 1100 degrees centigrade you do at the second stage, then the gas heat is there. So recover using waste heat recovery, and you generate a steam. So what we found, the steam we use it in the multiple effect evaporator. 3-stage multiple effect evaporator, leachate and other high TDS effluent is treated there. Storages are there. Various storages are there with the as per the requirement. Our laboratory is NABL and MOEF accredited. So all facilities are there. Storage arrangements, again, one more view I have shown. This again, another view of the waste handling and everything. We also have a plastic processing plant where we collect the plastic waste from our waste and then convert into granules after the cleaning up and everything. So different about 75 ton per month we can make, and there are also e-waste processing facilities separate is there. Various visitors are coming, like including experts, and they appreciate this very good system. This is Kasturi Rangan. Professor Kasturi Rangan has visited, and several people have visited. And this is the effort of a lot of people like Mr. Panjwani, Mr. Dalwadi, and many other team. There is a large number of team working behind this project, and that is made this successful. And today also a lot of efforts are there, and BAL is doing and setting up facility at the Dahej also, a big capacity incinerator. It is getting ready. It's almost ready for the trial runs, and the facilities are there. And the hazardous waste is a big problem, and uh, these issues are being solved by operating such facilities. This is another example. Another example I have given of a we are operating a facility at Himachal Pradesh, Nalagarh, Baddi Nalagarh. So this is a you can see the greenery surrounding our facility and the our aerial view of our site. That green inside is that pitch sort of thing. That is the capped area. Totally environment friendly, because a difficult, very difficult environment problem converting into a very safe, environmentally safe facility. So this is the challenge which the we had taken up, our team has taken up, and BAL has taken up, and they are doing one facility at Himachal Pradesh, another at Kerala, KEAL. So these are being operated on in this one. So very tough problem, making into a very simple task. So thank you. I think I have completed in the time. If you have any questions or suggestions, we can discuss. Hello?
Yes, thank you, sir.
Can I
Participants?
close my can I close my this presentation?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Kindly ask the questions. If you have any queries or any doubts, you can share.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, in the beginning, you have told about the Love Canal incident.
Yeah.
Sir, can you describe in brief what happened actually in that incident? Hello.
Yeah. No, that slide because there are 3-4 incidents. Love Canal incident, I think what has happened, there are the Hooker chemicals. I think in the Hooker chemicals have buried a large number of chemical waste drums in the Love Canal area. That has given the contamination. A lot of studies have been done. Then it has the people were evacuated from there, and then later that remediation was done. So that I have not the you can get the detail if you go to the website. You get this history, total case study, including videos are there.
Okay, sir.
Sir, is there any incidents, such incidents happens in India?
Now this this remediation or the issues there are in the Central Pollution Control Board has identified several sites having contamination in the country because of the wrong practices. You may be knowing at Baroda, one hexavalent chromium contaminated site is there. A lot of quantities lying still there. I don't remember the name of that company, but there is a site at the, it's a, identified as a contaminated site, and which needs, has lot of accumulation of hexavalent chromium, waste with hexavalent chromium. There are several such sites identified in the country and which is giving contamination. And these sites are, there is a planning for remediation. They have worked out DPR for various projects, and in some cases they are invited tenders and they have finalized the parties for remediation. So such activities are going on in the country. There are several in Kerala. One Nalla contaminated with the pesticides. Similarly, there are several areas in the industrial area they have already identified and included in our priority list, in the country's priority list. But their detailed analysis and the expenses and everything are being worked out. But I think there is another thing I will tell you. There was a contamination at the Kodaikanal. You know that this Hindustan Unilever, they were making this thermometers where mercury was being used, and lot of mercury contamination was there at the Hindustan Liver. That there is a site. I think that issue is resolved because there were a lot of the Supreme Court committee has also involved in that one, and there was a visits and the modalities have been there, and there were arguments and this one. It's a very difficult for the remediation of the mercury. So such issues are there in India also. There are issues, and there are I think but the gravity of the situation is not that high as what USA and other. USA has a lot of problem. There are several sites. For example, I have visited one site at Thames Beach. Thames Beach, what has happened? The people have sprayed DCP phenol for preventing some pest, so that the agricultural, but that has given the contamination of dioxin. Dioxin has been contaminated in the soil at several that area. So that Thames Beach has been remediated with what they have to do. Once they found this contamination, evacuated the people from that area. Then the technology adopted there was incineration, in situ incineration. They have brought a rotary kiln portable incinerator, very big incinerator, and excavated soil, and they were putting, incinerating. Then after that checking, they were disposing or refilling the area. As a member of the delegation on hazardous waste from India, I visited this site in 1996. So there are several such activities going on. Luckily, as on today, we don't know, but there can be problems because we are not checking that much. Industries, if they, because wrong practices were there several years. Even today, there are a lot of people doing wrong things. So contamination may be there. Once they find the contamination, then remediation will have to be done. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Any other questions from participants?
Hello, am I
Yeah.
audible?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, I am Dr. Shweta Kulse from MIT University, Rajasthan. I was listening to the lecture very carefully, and it was very interesting, especially the part when you were talking about the hazardous waste and its handling. So basically, I'm microbiologist. So what I was observing that in India, I went through several papers, and I come to know that in status are there, but many hospitals are not having incinerator facility. And it is not possible for every hospital to transport their waste, so they are not discarding it properly. And has hospital waste is also considered as hazardous waste. So because this is the public platform on which we are discussing something, and this recording will be available on YouTube also. So I would like to know your suggestions in this regard, so that waste, hospital waste especially, that can be discarded properly. And what is your suggestion actually in this regard? How can we
Yeah,
control all these practices? Actually, you were talking about the wrong practices. Yes, wrong practices
yeah,
are going on,
yeah,
but
yeah,
there must be some stringent regulations which must be imposed on the
yeah,
hospitals,
yeah,
especially
yeah.
in this COVID
No,
era.
no. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you for that point. This biomedical waste, the hospital waste and the other microbiological waste issues are there, and the rule, uh, biomedical waste rules, management rules have been published in 2016 along with the hazardous waste rules. So there are segregation required. There is a limitation 48 hours for the after the generation to treat. There is a limitation. Everything is there, and there are facilities come up, and the waste handling, different colored bags for the waste, different treatment methodologies. For example, for the item needs a disinfection, autoclaving is required, and there are certain things which is recyclable after this one, like plastics and everything. After disinfection, it can be converted into sellable material. And other category which is considered a yellow category in the bags they put into this one, that needs human parts and everything comes into this one, or toxic, or even leftover tablets and everything that needs incineration. So this is a very successful, and there are a lot of successful facilities handling this one. It is being operated with this one systematically, and our first plan we commissioned in Kerala in May, and it is working for the last 6 months, and we are operating with the autoclave. We have 2 autoclaves for that material, and there is a incinerator. There are 2 incinerators. We are able to operate and they destroy it, convert into this one. There is absolutely no problem. There is a very good collection system and handling system. I understand that in many part of the country there are good collection system, and in Andhra and many other places, Hyderabad and many other places, there are good facilities. It is possible, it's not a very difficult, but the cost is involved, because many times people are wanted to avoid that cost. So
yeah,
if
yeah,
you have a very good system of implementation by the pollution control board, the technologies are available,
yeah,
very good practices are there. You have to have very good facilities, and you need to earmark the area for the people. Say, for example, if it's a large state, there may be requirement of 4-5 facilities, so that you can have a one facility common to 3 or 4 districts, so that it will be,
yeah,
you can collect and dispose it of properly.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, is there any questions? Okay, so I think there is no more questions. So we will move towards the concluded station. Thank you very much, sir, for enlightening us. Today's talk was full of knowledge and very informative session, sir. I'm pretty sure the precious knowledge sir gave us will definitely help us in our future career. Thank you very much, sir, for accepting our invitation and delivered this wonderful talk, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity
Thank you
given.
very much, sir.
It is always a pleasure to interact with the academic community and share the knowledge. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Now, participants, you can leave now, and we will meet again in second session at 1:30 p.m.